Welcome back to the Keeping It Real with KC podcast. I, of course, am your host, KC Phoenix. And yeah, I'm doing a daily thought. I haven't done one in about a week, give or take. I think it's been a week. Today's the 21st? Yeah, it's been a week. All right. So, before I go any further, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. So, I'm doing my daily thought. I have a tarot card with me, and it is the Tower. So, the Tower, for those of you who are not familiar with tarot, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, of course, I do a lot of tarot readings. Sometimes I do daily thoughts. Sometimes I talk about lifestyle, entertainment, news, and sports, even though I don't really watch sports, which, by the way, I haven't forgotten about the wacky news stories. I will eventually get those up. I just haven't put a rush on it. But I promise you I will get those done. So yeah, anyways, with the Tower card, when this card comes out in the reading or in the pre-shuffle, it's usually talking about something that was not built on a firm foundation, is what it discusses. The Tower is also about shock. It can be about surprise too. If you see here how the people are falling from the tower and it's being struck, there's some type of information too that has been learned as well during the process. It can have multiple meanings. The usual default meaning when readers talk about this is shock and something not being built on a solid foundation. So therefore it's time for it to crumble so you can rebuild anew. It's similar to the Death card, where it's sort of like a transformation, but it's more of a forced transformation, where the individual, the universe is saying, okay, you're not really taking the signs here. Let me go ahead and help you along. Or, as what I said before, it's just as force because it wasn't built on a solid foundation, whatever the situation is. I interpret it those ways as well as many other ways. I will say this. The back on the battlefield, which is what my daily thought is about. And I'm talking about myself. I've been very, very docile over the last few years, actually almost a decade, give or take, because I just, after a while, you kind of get battle fatigue, for one. Two, it's just, there wasn't anything that required me to put on my armor and pick up my sword. I even did a daily thought, put down your sword or lay your sword down, whatever the title of that one is. It's one of the older ones. You'll have to scroll back through and find it, but it's there. Or I think maybe it was called Know When to Put Your Sword Down, whatever. In the substance of that reading was, for some people, they have been on the battlefield so much, they won't let their sword go, and they're just ready to swing their sword at any time, and there isn't any type of discernment when they're swinging their sword, where it's like whether the person is friend or foe, the individual is swinging their sword on both. They don't care because they've been in battle so much. It's just natural for them, where it's like, okay, if there's any type of resistance, if there's any type of threat or any type of perceived threat, because also one thing during one of the oracle card readings I did, it said just because you feel threatened doesn't mean that you are being threatened. There's a difference. Let that marinate for a second. So with that, perceiving everything as a threat and just ready to go in with your sword and let have. Now, the other side of that it's just being battle fatigued, and you don't really feel like swinging your sword at all that much anymore unless absolutely forced. And even when there's a situation that needs a warrior on the battlefield, you're just kind of like, well, it's not affecting me as much, so I fought all my battles. And that's what you see happen to old people. It's kind of interesting. I know a lot of older people who used to be very, 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 what's the word I'm looking for? I need a word, please. Not lively. I want a different one, please. I need another one. I like that word. Okay, we'll just stick with that one. That were very vivacious. Back in their day. They had a lot of energy. And after a while, being on the battlefield, being eager to run into battle, they just got battle fatigue. And that's why they're so calm. I remember one of my uncles, who is no longer with us anymore, when I met him, like really dealt with him, he was just a cool old man. And I'll never forget, I said to one of my relatives, I'm like, oh, Uncle such and such, he's just a sweet old man. He's so nice, because all I knew him for was working on cars and just being really, really chill. Like he didn't bother anyone and stuff, and really a good guy. But then my relative told me, you do know that he did a bid, right? In more words or less. I didn't know that my uncle was, since this is going to be on YouTube, it starts with a K and ends with an R. I didn't know that, because a situation went down and then he just did what he felt he had to do. And it's kind of funny because I do have a lot of K's on my mother's side of the family, which is hilarious to me. Like my dad's side of the family, they're all sanctified and saved and Holy Ghost filled and in church on Sunday, Wednesday, and everything else. On my mother's side of the family, different story. So yeah, we got some K's on my mother's side of the family, like for real, as in I'm not being hyperbolic or facetious or anything. We really have K's on my mother's side of the family. So it's just interesting. And some of those people, and that particular uncle as an example, and even some of the other people that I've dealt with, not just in my family, but also in life, where they've gotten older, and how they would go in and just be ready to swing their sword at anybody when they were younger. I guess you could say they got battle fatigue. And then you have another group of people who get battle fatigue, and then they become bitter because maybe they didn't accomplish what they wanted to accomplish at a certain point in their life. And they may have this idea that, well, it's too late for me now. I can't accomplish this anymore. I need to be realistic. I need to be an adult. And then they might become bitter because they're not seeing the possibility. My thing is, and this is just what I always tell people, if the divine wakes you up in the morning, you got a chance. That's how I look at it. If the divine wakes you up in the morning, you have a chance. You may have felt battle fatigued, or you may feel bitter about something, but you're still here for a reason. If there wasn't any reason for you to be here, you would not be here. It's very black and white. There is no gray area. If it wasn't meant for you to be here, trust me, you're not going to be here. So, yeah. But going back to this tower moment, I feel that that tower moment for some people like myself, certain events have happened over the past few weeks. And my discernment is pretty good. I mean, you watch my readings. For those of you who are listening to my readings, my discernment is pretty good. Have to say that. I don't know everything. I do have good intuition. And I feel this is the divine saying, okay, let me use an Avengers example because everybody's seen the Avengers. You remember on Avengers Infinity War, pretty sure that was the one, where Bucky was in Wakanda, and then the Black Panther was bringing him his new arm, and then he's walking out to him, and he's saying to, I think it was Okoye, he was saying the White Wolf has rested long enough. Because it's like, okay, dude, you've rested, we've done what we can to help you, you getting your mind right, getting your body right. It's time to go back to war. It is what it is. It's time to get back on the battlefield. I think I can say to you as well that it's okay to take a break from things, but there are times when you have to be on the battlefield. If you're not on the battlefield, how are you gaining any ground? I mean, yeah, you can do things passively and, possibly gain a little bit by a little bit. But there are other times where some battles just have to be fought. I have a situation going on right now with the insurance company. I didn't want to deal with it because I'm just kind of like, I don't like confrontation. I'm not a confrontational person. I really am not. That's not me. I'm the opposite. I'm the person who will go the other way. But then if I'm forced into confrontation, it is what it is. It's kind of funny. And my longtime listeners know this. When I worked in real estate, I had to deal with people all across the country. Dealing with properties, dealing with code enforcement, dealing with local, state, sometimes federal, rare federal, but mostly local and state officials. And doing battle with them in certain situations where I felt they were in the wrong. And I was talking to one of my coworkers one day, and I said to my coworker, I was like, I hate confrontation. I really, really do. Because I was dealing with something. I was like, oh, I hate confrontation. And the president of the company just so happened to be walking by. And he stopped in his tracks and he looked at me and he said, what? I was like, I don't like confrontation. That's not me. And he was like, you don't like confrontation? Because he was used to seeing me on the battlefield. That was the thing. He was used to seeing the soldier. But because when I'm at work, I'm at work. So he was used to seeing the soldier. So he didn't really know me outside of work because I do my best not to mix my personal life with my work life. You can have friends that work and all that stuff. That's fine and cute, but I'm not the person who goes to the company picnics, the company outings, or anything like that. I'm the person who just buries my head in my work and does my job. That's the person I am. And sometimes it can be a good thing and a bad thing because some people might feel offended by that because they're like, oh, he doesn't want to be, associate with us, blah, 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 blah. He's focusing on his work. He doesn't want to be a team player or what have you. But at the same time, the good side of that is like, oh, wow, he works really hard. So, it's all about what you like. One of my real estate jobs, I got employee of the quarter. Not flexing, just a fact. So I just do my job. I'll worry about being liked later. As you know, I don't really care who likes me. But back to this. With everything that's been going on, it's just like I feel this tower is saying, hey, this passive thing is cute. It's nice that you're not in any confrontations and all. However, some things are worth fighting for. And that's what's resonating with me, is that some things, not all things, because you have to know when to put your sword down. You can't go swinging your sword on everyone. Some things are worth fighting for. You've rested long enough, especially my longtime listeners, after the mono and the parvo at the same time and everything else, and just a whole lot of other stuff that has happened in my life that I've dealt with. And that's one reason why I am very spiritual, and I consider myself close to the divine, flaws and all, because we all are flawed. Don't make it seem like, oh, you have to be perfect to be close to God. No, you're imperfect because you're in flesh, in the human body. Your soul is the light, your flesh is the dark. You have to learn how to balance both of those out. God already knows you're not perfect. If you were perfect, what would be the point of God? Just saying. But some things are worth fighting for. And you've rested long enough. Your body has been healed way from where your body used to be back a few years ago in 2020 when I got really, really sick, to where it is now is like night and day. Do I still have health issues from time to time? Yeah, I do. But for the most part, I look around and I'm always reading stuff on the internet and people talking about how they don't have energy and how they don't have this or what's going on with them health. I'm like, I don't have any of these problems. What's really going on? I'm thankful that I'm in good health and I'm in my right mind. I give thanks for being in good health and in my right mind and waking up every morning when I wake up every morning. I just feel that the universe is telling me, hey, you have to get back on the battlefield. You don't have a choice. Some things are worth fighting for. So that is my daily thought to those who are listening. And if you made it to the end watching, God bless you, because I know people on YouTube can have a short attention span sometimes. But definitely anybody who made it to the end of this, thank you. For those of you who feel disillusioned and you feel there isn't anything to live for and you feel there isn't anything to fight for, okay, you can be in that for a moment, but you can't stay in that forever. Some things are worth fighting for. And definitely there's something worth living for. Because as I said before, if you weren't meant to be here, you would not be here. Full stop. There's nothing else. If you were not meant to be here, you would not be here. So if you are here, there is still work to do. Not necessarily saying you have to jump straight onto the battlefield. I'm not saying that. I am saying that you have a purpose and you just have to figure out what it is. And occasionally you may have to step on the battlefield to fulfill your purpose. But as for me, due to all of these things that have been happening lately, coming at me from all these directions, I'm just like, really? And the universe is saying, you have to get back on the battlefield. Some things are worth fighting for. So here I am, reporting for duty. And that is my daily thought. KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. Until next time, be blessed.